Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Just Like Brothers podcast. I'm Laieke.
I'm Kyle Jones.
Thank you so much to everyone who watched our first episode, and
Shout out my 10 subscribers.
absolutely shout out to everyone that subscribed to our YouTube channel, We Journal Great Sports. We have some new things planned with social media.
Right.
We now have a Twitter page.
Yeah.
It's at WJG_sports. And we want you guys to check it out. We're going to be posting our content from there. And Kyle Jones has a lot of things planned for that. And we can't wait. We can't wait for business to boom. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course.
Let's get into it, Kyle.
Yeah, we'll get right into it. Of course, the thing I have that I'm working on right now is a lot of ECI content. Mm-hmm. East Coast Invitational takes place in Jacksonville, one of the best basketball team camps in North Carolina every single year.
Yep.
Always has some of the elite programs come out. They do a really great job of putting that event together. Shout out to, can't think of his name right
Wells
now.
Gulledge?
Yeah, Wells
Yep.
Gulledge for putting
Absolutely.
that together. He's always done a really great job of it.
No doubt about it.
But yeah, I'm going to have South Central versus Kinston highlights up from that. I'm going to have Kinston versus Greenfield highlights. Going to have some more highlights just in general from some different players. We've already got one up about Christian Bullock from Goldsboro, so go and check out
He's big time.
starting point guard for Goldsboro. Big thing we're going to talk about is, of course, Dayron. Let's start with Dayron.
No doubt about it. Dayron Sharp came out to prove a point in the
Best
ECI.
player in the state.
Yeah, it's really hard to go against him. I'll tell you that. But yes, Dayron Sharp and the South Central Falcons picked up a 76-63 win over Kinston to win the ECI Team Camp 2019. South Central came in. Obviously, having Dayron Sharp is really huge for what they could be doing this coming season. But they had a new nucleus around him, so to speak, that played very well. So who from South Central stood out to you, Kai?
The biggest thing
outside of Dayron.
Yeah, outside of Dayron, we're going to talk about Trayvon Ward. He hit a lot of good shots. He seemed like he's going to be a really good shooter for them. He knocked down a bunch of threes from them. Had some really good pull-ups there in the mid-range. Made some really smart passes. I think he's a guy whose stock is definitely going to be on the rise. I mean, whenever you play with guys like Dayron, it's always going to your stock is always going to rise a little bit more just because those type of guys enhance whoever they're around. And I think really Trayvon Ward is a guy who's going to be a really big enhancer. Was it Vontae
Hutcherson.
Hutcherson.
And speaking of him, he's a rising senior starting forward with alongside Dayron Sharp.
He knocked down some jump shots occasionally. He finished at the basket really well. 6'6", 6'7", if he can grow up at 6'8", 6'9", they're probably looking at somebody who can play at a high level. I definitely think he'll be playing college next year.
He's definitely a next level guy.
I think no matter what, the champs are still the champs, as it seems. I think they either won or finished second at ECI last year. So I mean, winning it this year definitely says some big things about them, and I think that Coach Cherry is pretty much on task. Basically, they're right where they need to be right now in the summer so far.
Yep, Chris Cherry is one of the very best coaches in North Carolina.
Absolutely,
he has a really good program and a lot of kids that are really ready to contribute, even though they're relatively new.
Right.
But this team is going to be really tough to beat this year. And they beat a very good Kinston team who also had a very good performance at the ECI team camp, right, Kai?
Right. We're going to talk about them a little bit later, just in a second. But the one thing I wanted to touch on with Dayron, I mean, he is the absolute goods. Saw him.
Dayron Sharp, he's good at basketball.
I'm about to say, I saw him in November, then I saw him again in March, and I saw him again this weekend. And every time he's gotten better and better. Just his propensity to work, he really puts in the work. We talked and he said that he gets up at 5 a.m. every morning, this summer to get up and go to the gym, and and he's a pro's pro, and he is going to have an absolutely fantastic senior season. And I look for them to repeat just because of how dominant he is going to be. Because I think that really he's going to try to score pretty much as possible, and he's also going to be willing to pass around. I mean, I want to say he picked up at least 5 or 6 assists in every single game that he played in.
That's one thing he's really improved on that I really liked about his game when I was there the first 2 days.
Right.
He's trying to help his team run the offense, help the new guys get a little bit more acclimated to how they'll be playing.
And even though he has those wing skills, he can dribble, he can pass it really well. The one thing I like about him is that when it's time for winning time, he's going to that post and he's going to punish you for being smaller than him. He knows how to use his size. I think sometimes you get those guys who already got their offers or they already got where they're going to be, and they start working on their wing skills, and they forget about the post game and how dominant they can be down there. Darron's not that guy. He's going to work on it a little bit, but once it gets down to that fourth quarter against Kinston, it was a 4-point game going into it, and he give me the ball. Give me the ball. He 6'8". I think he scored. I think he scored 9. No, he scored 6 points and assisted on another to give him a 9-3 run to push it up to 10, and then from there, South Central just took it.
Yeah, they just found a way to control the game at the end. And Kinston did play very well, but it is hard to stop someone that skilled at his size.
All right, so of course Kinston, despite losing to South Central, they really impressed me this weekend, even more than just being Kinston. They are very deep. I've seen, 9 or 10 guys who are really good basketball players. Of course, that's Kinston for you, but I think this year they have a lot more scoring ability. When you add Jeremy Dixon, who's a sophomore, rising sophomore, and you add Jaquan Mosley coming in, I think he's going to give them a lot of really good minutes. And of course, Styles and Parsons have both gotten so much better this summer. Parsons is one of the fastest rising point guards, I think, in this senior class, just because of the type of summer he's had playing with Team Trez. Who's also one of the fastest rising AAU programs in the state.
Absolutely, very top-notch program.
Right, and the thing about Parsons that I've always really liked is he's a true point guard. I think this summer he's really learned how to not facilitate, but how to balance facilitating versus his scoring. He can get a bucket. He can get a bucket, and I think that was really big. He hit a couple of shots where he was, pump fake, and then he put up a 3, and he made it. And that's a big talent. He is a high talent, and Don Trez is. He's really showing why people are calling him the next one in Kinston, to come out from Kinston High.
Absolutely. Isaac Parsons he's going to turn a lot of people's heads this year. He's going to be a really big time player. He was a big time player last year.
Yeah.
But yes, he is starting to create a lot more for himself,
right,
which is what Kinston needs to be very successful this year.
Right. Because I think Styles has always been the dominant presence. But,
yes, and he can go get his own shot whenever he wants.
But now you have a guy who can be a great second option and who can be that point guard that you need. Because, anytime Kinston's won, a state championship, it's always been because, they have a dominant wing or a dominant post player and then a dominant point guard. Kinston, they had some really high level games. I mean, they played West Carteret. West Carteret was a really good game.
And West Carteret beat them.
Yeah.
Right?
West Carteret, shout out to West Carteret.
That's a team that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, which they had a really good season. Last year, but yes. I think it exposed one of the Kinston's weaknesses that they normally have. They get against a team who is of lesser pedigree, and sometimes they have a tendency to kind of not come in as urgent and kind of lollygag a little bit, But I think West Carteret, they came out and they never quit, and then they got a moment where they get a big run and now they're up 11, and now Kinston's they're trying to play hard.
They're trying to play from behind. And
then,
yeah, so that game kind of got them to refocus a little bit, correct?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, because then they went up against Greenfield, and Greenfield is one of those teams you have to be really disciplined and you have to really play.
It's a state champion right there.
Yeah, that's a state champion. And then, of course, South Central, they did really well against South Central. And, just overall, it was a really good weekend for Kinston in my mind. They proved to me that they can be that team who's going to be right there with Farmville Central. I mean, because last year I left ECI thinking, okay, Green Central is still going to be Green Central. They're still going to win their conference probably, and they're still probably, which they did. I think
they won their regular season title, but
right.
Kinston won the tournament.
Right, and I didn't leave super impressed with what Kinston could offer, just because I still felt like they were just a little bit too young, especially when you look at Green Central play without Amaje, and I think that. Now with Maje gone and Styles is the most dominant player in that conference, I think that they're going to win that conference. I think anytime you win that conference for basketball, you're probably going to get a top 2 or 3 seed. So
it's one of the best conferences in the state.
Yeah. So I think eventually you'll be looking down the road and we'll be, at Greenville or either at Fayetteville, and we'll be watching Farmville Central versus Kinston for with a chance to go to the state title.
Yeah, those two teams are going to be hard to beat in that region. Some other players from Kinston that impressed me. Chance Minot. I don't know if I pronounced that last name right. If I did pronounce it wrong, I apologize.
Right.
But he's a rising senior guard, lefty.
Right.
Can really play. When he is shooting very well, Kinston's hard to beat.
Yeah.
And he's got to continue to shoot well and play and create well.
He's a sniper.
Absolutely. He did receive a lot of Division I interest from the ECI, which was really good. You mentioned Jeremy Dixon. Dixon was on the team last year. Did not get to play as many minutes, but this year he's going to play a little bit of a bigger role. Right. And he's a rising sophomore that has a lot of potential. He's like 6'3" as a wing.
Yeah, 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and he's very athletic. And when another player that he's got to shoot well, and he's got to shoot with confidence. And I think he did that over my time there at ECI, because I was there for the first 2 days.
Right. There were some times where he would just take them, and they were pretty contested, and he made them. So he's got to shoot it. I think that really they're going to need the Styles, Parson, Dixon, Minor. I think they're going to need all of them to really be able to be aggressive offensively.
And Will London as well is one that he's a high energy guy.
But of course too, they didn't have Kahari, who was more of a football player. So Kahari is really good defensively.
He's going to be big for the football program.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about some other teams that we saw. Of course, Greenfield. We talked about them a little bit. But I think they went undefeated in pool play. I think the only team they lost to was South Central in pool play.
I think so.
I didn't get a chance to see that game. I know you got a chance to see.
It was very hyped up. It was obviously it was definitely a high level game.
State champion versus state champion.
Yeah, it was champion versus champion. Of course, it was going to be kind of elevated above some of the other pool play games.
Right.
But it was just a basketball game. Both teams went out and tried to execute the best they can, and I believe both teams did. But it was back and forth throughout the first 3.5 quarters, and then South Central, as they did in the championship game, they kind of took over. And it wasn't really. It was Daylon, but everybody else also really contributed well in that game.
Right.
And either way, I left very impressed by both teams. And
I think the one thing with Greenfield, and I think Rod Bridgers talked about this on Twitter.
Shout out to Rod Bridgers, Hoops Network.
For sure. I think the biggest thing for them is just trying to figure out who's the guy. And Coach Salters may not see it that way, but there's always got to. When there's a moment and you need baskets, but there's a lot of strength in having a team who is all just very good, having all very good players. But then there's the problem where who's the guy? Yeah.
Well, we didn't have that problem last year and reached a state championship.
See, that's true. That's true. But I still feel like last year I feel like Lebo was definitely the guy. But I mean,
and Creighton Lebo was big time.
Yeah, Creighton Lebo was definitely the guy. I think this year we just because it's easy to buy in when you're trying to win one. Trying to win two though. When you look at repeats, it's hard just because guys want other things.
I agree that it is difficult to
repeat. You get that one championship, and some guys well, I want this for myself.
But I think this is a team that's going to refocus and be all right.
Yeah, I think eventually they'll be all right and they'll go deep in the playoffs. I think they'll just be trying to figure out who that guy is in it. I mean, this weekend it might not have been Lebo this weekend, which I think because it was very balanced, but during the season it could be him again because I think offensively he's the most skilled. Of course, it could be Jakari Outlaw, who's...
how about Jai Bailey as well?
Jai Bailey, who really impressed me really well just because of how he ran the offense and was able to get his own while also being able to facilitate very well. Of course, Goldsboro was there. I got a chance to see them. Christian Bullock is poised for a really big senior year. I have a highlight video of him. Go check that out. Of course, they also, Xavier Atkinson turned some heads with his athleticism, his length. And he's a 6'4" guy with really long arms, can jump really well. There was one time they threw a pass that was way too high. He just goes up, Randy Moss, and brings it back inbounds. Then the kid they're really excited about, Corey Faison, a freshman who a lot of people in the hoop. Well, I'm not gonna say a lot of people. The only person I've seen talk about him is Anthony Bruton, of course.
Shout out to Bucket Real.
Bucket Real, shout out to them. But yeah, it's Corey Faison, and he looked really good. He didn't look like he was afraid of the moment. As a freshman coming in, I think he's about 6'3" or 6'4", maybe 6'2"-ish, somewhere in that range. And he's long. He can shoot the ball really well. He has a good feel for offense. I think the biggest thing for him is kind of gaining some weight, and also if he can step into that second or third role and give them a little bit of size because they don't have any bigs.
You still have batteries.
It's going to be.
They do have a lot of very, very well-rounded athletes. So they're a very athletic team, and very well coached team.
And see, that's kind of what Goldsboro's always been about. It's always been about we have a lot of athletes, and we get around the court and we play defense, and we run up and down, and you better be able to keep up with it.
Goldsboro just has to make the easy shots. They have to make the quality shots that they get. They do get quality shots out of their offense.
And the funny thing about it is they make a lot of bad shots.
Yeah, it kind of balances out a little bit.
I mean, they make some bad shots and then they miss some good shots.
But from my first 2 days there, they played really well.
Right.
They were competitive in a lot of games.
Right. Of course, they got blown out by South Central.
South Central's good, of course.
Yeah, of course. They went 4-4. Last year, they had a much worse showing.
Yeah, it was a lot better, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, this year was a lot better of a showing than Coach Kroom. I think he's got a really good squad to work with. And I'm hoping for good things for them because they have some guys who I think can play college basketball, and you always love for kids to get a chance to play it, but you got to be able to win some ball games. You got to be able to play together as a team, and that was one thing that Coach Kroom said that he just needs for them to kind of understand a little bit more. The one thing I did saw, another thing too, is just sometimes they got up on Jacksonville and they kind of let the foot off the gas a little bit, and Jacksonville was in that game a lot longer than they should have been. But they
shout out to
off.
Coach Thompson from Jacksonville as well.
Yeah.
I got to meet him this weekend. Very nice guy.
Yeah, and they
that's a good team too.
Yeah,
good team.
Yeah, they finished them off, and they still won. 3A team versus a 2A team. So sky's the limit for Goldsboro. Really, I think really, like I said, it's just some things to clean up. But coming off a 22-5 season, got the talent to come back and probably do something like that. I mean, really, the only last year that 5 losses came to Kinston twice. Wayne Country Day, who was famous.
They went to the 2A state championship for private schools, and the other one was Spring Creek and Conference.
Yeah, Spring Creek and Conference by 3 points at Spring Creek's place, and then of course you lose to a good Carborough team who shoots a lot of threes.
Yeah, that was their season-ending loss in the
Right.
state playoffs.
So, a lot of good things to come for Goldsboro.
Absolutely, I agree.
So yeah, let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about some football. We had a fan request some football talk, so let's talk some early season matchups. The big one I think of automatically: Princeton versus Pamlico County. A big 1A matchup. Princeton will be facing Pamlico County on the road, I believe.
Yeah, up in Bayboro.
Yeah, up in Bayboro. Be a good test for the Bulldogs to figure out where they're at. Also a good test for Pamlico County to figure out where they're at in the absence of Tori Knoll.
Just left. Yeah, the former head coach is now the head coach of New Bern High School.
Right. Who ironically will be taking on Goldsboro in the first game of the season. So 4A versus 2A there. That could be pretty interesting. See what Tori Knoll can kind of accomplish there in New Bern, who's fallen off a lot from the power that they used to be. As a 4A school, losing to a 1A school last year. I remember that was a very embarrassing moment. But they've turned over.
They've turned over a lot of their programs there.
Yeah, I mean, new basketball coach, new football coach, huge. Of course, Noel he has a pedigree for winning. So
absolutely,
big game and more in your area than my area. Of course, is South Central Green Central to start the season off. First game for Jay Wilson. Of course, we love Coach Wilson in the county.
No doubt about it. He's a great guy. Love Coach Wilson. Yes, he just became the new head coach for Green Central High School after former head coach Alan Wooten wouldn't say decided, but he became the new head coach at Havelock High School, one of the best programs in North Carolina. And that's going to be a big game, bigger early non-conference game, which is like they're relatively close to each other, of course, South Central and Green Central.
Right.
In terms of proximity, it's going to be really interesting to see where both teams are at, kind of with the losses that they both had to go through. Both
right.
programs.
Of course, Green Central they lost AJ Dupree and they lost Brandon Gilbert, who was their defensive captain as well.
Absolutely. South Central lost Jeremy Lewis, who was on the state championship basketball team.
Right.
And
ECU commit.
Yes, he's now
at ECU actually.
Yes, he's now playing for ECU right next to home.
Right.
So that's going to be a real big matchup. Another one for me is Kinston versus Jacksonville. That's kind of an enticing matchup between two really good programs.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jacksonville was a regional champ, and they beat Havelock.
Right.
It was an epic comeback against Havelock. And look out for Kari Pitts from Kinston. He's going to be.
I actually talked to Kari Pitts, off camera, but we were talking about how the team looked, and he was like, "Oh, we're going to be fine. It looks pretty good." He's like, "The biggest thing is just trying to figure out the quarterback issue."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "We just
losing Kieran Hooker."
He's like, "We just need another Kieran. That's it." And I was like, "Okay, 30 touchdowns. That's what you need." But I think eventually, by the time August rolls around, that they'll have figured it out, and they got too many good receivers. Because when you have the type of athletes that Kinston always has, you're going to have receivers who are going to be really be able to beat people on the outside. And I think it'll make a quarterback's life really easy, especially when you have a guy like Kari Pitts, who took a lot of passes and turned them into touchdowns. It took a lot of screens.
He has big playability.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of really big plays for that team.
Right, and that's going to be a big matchup. Of course, Jacksonville kind of figuring out because I think they were a heavy senior-laden team.
Yes, they were. Yes,
so trying to seeing them how they figure it out, and then also how Kinston figures it out. I know, of course, early season matchup Washington versus Tarboro, and then of course they have Conley back-to-back weeks.
That's a gauntlet. Especially playing Tarboro. That is one of the best programs anywhere in the state. I put them up against just about everybody.
Yeah,
that's a team full of really tough.
Coach Craddock is.
Oh yeah, they're really tough.
They're
it's a really tough program.
Yeah, they are intense. Really, as far as early season matchups, I think Aycock versus Rosewood would be an interesting one. Rosewood, of course, finished the game short of the state title game, I believe. I think they lost to Pamlico County in the fourth round, I want to say, and. Of course, going against Aycock, who had kind of a down year for what Aycock has normally done. But Coach Brooks, he's a guy that you met and a guy.
Yes, I saw CBA cock and Beast of the East. Yes.
Yeah, and I always, I think, when you have a good coach, you can kind of, bounce back from those losses like that. So those are some early season matchups that we're really thinking about.
All right, well, that just about sums up the second episode of the Just Like Brothers podcast. As always, thank you for listening to us. It's been really fun first 2 episodes.
Right.
Be sure to check out our content at wjgsports.com.
Right.
And
WeJournalGreatSports.com.
Or WeJournal, excuse me.
And
yes.
WJG Sports is the YouTube page, so make sure you check that out. We have a lot of content coming. I still got content from the ECI, like I said earlier, coming. More basketball, and then of course there's gonna be some football content coming up pretty soon.
Yeah,
so
we're getting around the corner of the football season, guys.
Of course, we're gonna be on a little hiatus from actually doing the podcast because my man Laieke is going out of the country.
Yeah, your boy's I'm going to Spain for a few weeks.
So if you're in Spain, if you're watching from Spain, look him up. He's a fun guy. He's a fun guy. He's
I am board man and I get paid.
Yes.
Board man gets paid. But yes, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell for notifications on when we post new content.
Right.
We are now on Twitter at WJG_sports. You can find Kai Jones at
MMJ Kai Jones. Of course, I'll be having lots of content being posted over the next couple days. So get ready, folks. It's revving up.
And you can find me at LMA Preps. I don't know what I'll be tweeting for the next few weeks, but it's probably not.
He might not be tweeting at all.
Because, but yes, please just be sure to follow.
So maybe wait until the next episode to follow.
But yes, until next time, I'm Laieke BB.
And I'm Kai Jones. Thanks for watching, and come back and watch us again next week.
We are out.